Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? We're going to get started with our our next presentation. My name is Katie McMenamin. I work for Young America's Foundation. We're one of the major sponsors of the SFLA National Conference. So just a shameless plug, if you haven't yet, be sure to stop by our booth out in the lobby and get your free pro-life posters, stickers, and buttons. Just for stopping by, and you can also enter for a chance to win a trip to one of our events. We worked with students to help promote conservative ideas on their high school and college campuses to include pro-life issues and other conservative ideas, so definitely stop by. We'd love to see you. But now to move on to our next presentation entitled Watch Your Mouth and Mind Your Manners. We have learned so much today about our pro-life position, how to communicate it one-on-one with our peers, and how to offer resources to those facing an unexpected pregnancy. But how does that all translate to larger audiences? For example, how can you use what you've learned today when you're communicating to your whole campus, your whole community, or even to the media? And what's the best way to use your digital presence to advance our movement? So I'll ask our different panelists to come ahead now, and I'll give their brief introductions. These introductions will be very short and sweet and really don't do justice to what remarkable women they are. So I encourage you to read their bios in the program, and also to read about them online. They do fantastic work, and they're the experts for this panel, so it's really exciting. So one of our first panelists is Kristen Hawkins, who really needs no introduction as the, let's give her a hand. As the president of SFLA, she directs mission and strategy, but also serves as a spokeswoman and has made countless appearances on major news networks and has been quoted in many national newspapers. Secondly, I'd like to introduce Erin Brownback. She is a doctoral student working towards a PhD in social transformation, and she's an advocate for the goodness of God's design for the family, who has created messages for many leaders and pro-family and pro-life groups. Thirdly, I'd like to introduce Irina Grosso. She is the director of the Center for Human Dignity at the Family Research Council and has been published in national publications and done television interviews on basically every major news network, and has also testified before Congress and made compelling presentations before the UN Commission and other educational events. And lastly, but not least, is Kira Davis, who is a writer, culture critic, and contributing editor for Red State. She's been published in national publications and appeared on major news shows. So please welcome all these panelists, and I'll hand it off to Kira.
Thank you so much. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I know you guys have been getting a lot of information today, so we're going to try to make this fun for you. But first, before we start, I'd like to know who in here has ever watched or plans to watch the Oscars or the Golden Globes. Raise your hand if you like award shows. Well, I'm from the LA area, and one job that is very important during those shows is seat filler, because you never want to make it look like you don't have enough people in the audience. You guys are really spread out right now, so I'm going to ask those of you who can and are able to be our professional seat fillers today for this panel on messaging. So I'm going to ask as many as can possibly do this, to stand up and just move forward a few rows. Nothing will happen to you. You won't be bitten. I promise there will be no, we won't be pointing at you and laughing at you on the video later. But what it does is it fills the front row, so it looks like we've got a lot of people here, and then next year we can get more money, we can have more speakers, we can have more events, we can do cool stuff, we can give away cars and give away, no, okay, I better not. The Students for Life is like, you're going a little bit outside of your safety zone here. That's right, move forward, move forward. Thank you. See, all right, you guys are great. There's probably some jobs in LA you can get. Any of you guys want to come out to LA? We'll get you hooked up as professional seat fillers. And actually, that is really a job, by the way. It really is. People get paid to do it. So, okay. Well, my name is, as you guys are filling in, and don't be shy, come on, I promise, I won't make fun of you. I will make fun of you if you don't move. How about that? I'm kidding. My name is Kira Davis. I am a journalist. I'm an op-ed journalist, which means that people pay me to tell them what I think. It is as awesome as it sounds. I have a lot of issues that I enjoy being a part of, but one issue that is close to my heart as a mother is the issue of life, and being pro-life is very important to me. And I said this last week at our West Coast conference, that before I went to that conference, I had to tell my 9-year-old daughter what an abortion was. We had never had the conversation before, but she knew I was going to something called the March for Life, and she didn't understand why people would have to march for life, in support of life, because doesn't everybody like life? And I had to find the most diplomatic way to tell her what an abortion was, and I did. I was as soft and gentle as I could be, but it's very difficult to sugarcoat that issue. But I told her, and she said, "How can that be right? Doesn't that kill the baby?" And I said, "Yeah, it does." And she was horrified. So the issue of life is something that's innate to people, and you have to work really hard to be against the issue of life. You really have to spend a lot of time rationalizing and thinking about it to be against the issue of life, because life is actually the default position. So messaging that is very important. You're dealing with people who have spent a lot of mental time and energy to be pro-choice. To say that a baby in the womb is not alive until it comes out of the womb requires a lot of mental energy, and that's what you're working against. So we've got a panel here today that's going to help you learn how to talk about this issue, how to message this issue with your groups, how to make this issue sound like what it is, which is the default position. Life is always the default position. So we're going to get started really quickly. Panel, I'm going to ask you one by one. We'll just start right here with Arena. If you could just give our wonderful group of students here the definition. What is messaging?
Messaging is a way to express and communicate to the world the positive facts about what we believe as pro-lifers, and it's a way to help them have the right language to also communicate it, because the other side is going to try to spin everything, and if we don't have our facts down, it's going to really impact the way people understand and communicate. And so it's important that we use language that says exactly what we mean, because if we're using their language, we've already lost the fight.
All right. Do you ladies have anything to add to that? We feel?
We're good.
Okay.
Next
good.
question.
It's simple. That's what messaging is. All right. I do want to ask you guys about messaging in the current culture. I shared that little story about my daughter having to explain to her what an abortion is, and it seems like thank you very much. This young man is so good at his job. Yes, that's all right. Thank you. Thank you. It's the little things that but we did talk about, I mentioned that story, and in everything you see on TV these days, it seems like the default position in the entertainment culture is kind of the culture of death. Like, it is glorified, it's glamorized, and pro-life is sort of demonized. How do we address this issue of life in a culture of death? Kristen?
Well, I think it's a hard question. This is a hard thing to do. How do we talk about our issue in a way that, pervades kind of what goes on in our culture, the things that are being said? I think it's important. Something that I said today, about exposing the darkness. I think it's important that we show truth and we bring light in our message, because that's what we stand for. But we also, at the same time, have to talk about what really is happening. expose the darkness of the abortion industry and what abortion is. And I think that we can do that. We can be lighthearted, we can be happy, we can be joyful. Do what we did at the March for Life yesterday. That was one of our biggest messaging opportunities our movement has, is that we were there as the pro-life generation. We were representing our view and the belief that abortion is wrong and abortion should be overturned. And we were commemorating all of these children that we've lost. We were thinking about all the women and the families who've been harmed by abortion. But we were also optimistic, we were hopeful for the future, and we were joyful. And I think that was a great messaging opportunity for us yesterday, just holding our eye on the pro-life generation signs, smiling at the cameras, because that's what we need to have happen in our movement when we talk about messaging and narrative and how we, repair the brand, because pro-life is seen sometimes as negative, depending on who people have interacted with in their past, depending on what people have said about pro-lifers. Sometimes there can be this negative brand associated with the pro-life movement or talking about abortion, but we're not negative, we're joyful. We'll tell the truth and we'll tell the hard truth, but we do that with love, compassion, and hope.
And Kara, just as far as culture goes, so culture is the reflection that you are doing your job. Culture shows that you have communicated pro-life is the new normal. And it's so normal, it's showing up in TV, it's showing up in music, it's showing up in movies, it's showing up in the news. And the way you do that is you look for the inroads. Say, The Big Bang Theory. Has anyone watched that? Did anyone see the pro-life episodes that they've had where they talked about, you've created a person? So what you need to do when you see that, there's commercials that do that. There's lots of different things where we are culturally pushing toward a position of life. When you see that, you need to make sure that they make more money when they do that than when they promote death, right? Because that's what drives these businesses in the culture. So you need to go on your Instagram, you need to go on your Facebook, you need to go on your Twitter, you need to go on whatever you've got and say, everybody watch this show. Make sure their ratings go up because they promote life. And so we promote them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, very good. Irina? Thank you, Erin.
Yes, I also think so many people have been hurt by abortion that we also see that. We see abortion, people writing about abortion in songs, it's coming up in movies. And so people are talking about the fact that abortion has hurt them, even though pro-abortion allies and Planned Parenthood don't want to say that abortion hurts women. Culture's already talking about it. So let's take advantage of those moments too, that share emotion when it comes to the wounds of abortion, and that's them being real, because a lot of artists don't care about the Planned Parenthood messaging. They're just being real with their emotions, and we need to really spread that out as well.
Okay, I want to start with Kristen, but I do kind of want to hear from all of you, because when we were back in the green room, Kristen, you pointed me to an article recently that ran in the Washington Post, and where you said that you don't think the term pro-life should be the prevailing term that we use anymore. You say you like to use anti-abortion, and I found that interesting. It was the first time I had heard that, actually. Can you explain why you think that that's an important messaging tool?
Yes. I didn't say we shouldn't use pro-life
Okay,
anymore.
I apologize.
I'm correcting the journalist. You can do that. Just make
Sorry.
sure when you're being interviewed. I think we can use the terms interchangeably. When we started talking, in the movement originally, I remember when I first got in the pro-life movement, I attended a workshop that was, anytime someone says anti-abortion, you say pro-life. And really when that happened, that was in the 90s, that was when support for abortion was at its highest. And we wanted to really show people this is what we're for. But what's been interesting is we've had kind of a cultural shift, and people now, the majority of people, no matter if they're pro or anti-abortion, the first thing that comes to mind when they hear the word abortion is a negative term. So they hear death, killing, sadness. It doesn't really matter what they say about if the abortion should be illegal or not. Everyone knows, when in their mind, the top of the mind response is that negative term. I think it's important for us to just be able to be very simplistic and say, no, we're anti-abortion. I'm anti-drunk driving. I'm anti-smoking. Try to smoke a cigarette near me. I'm anti-sex trafficking. I'm anti-abortion. There's nothing wrong with saying that. I also think it's very helpful, and we actually came to this kind of by accident, because on campuses, we were recruiting for Students for Life groups. A lot of times we were asking students, hey, are you pro-life? Are you pro-life? And we were clipboarding to recruit, and a lot of kids were like, I don't know, which one's that? And they're like, I don't know. And then we spent all this time explaining pro-life versus pro-choice because the other side is intentionally tried to muddy the term, what's pro-life. Wendy Davis, for example, that Texas legislator who filibustered in pink tennis shoes against the 20-week abortion ban, which prevents babies from being killed if they've been proven to feel pain. She actually, when she was campaigning for governor, she lost. But when she was campaigning, she actually tried to call herself pro-life. And that was interesting. Like, they've muddied the word pro-life. So for campuses, it's just a lot faster. Like, hey, are you anti-abortion or pro-abortion? Also, it makes them have to say they're pro-abortion. They're like, I'm not pro-abortion. Now, Josh and I have different opinions on that, but
okay,
I think it's good.
I'm going to stop you there. That was actually very helpful. That was a question. That was a legitimate. I was not just asking for them. That was a legitimate question.
Oh, good. Did I answer your question?
I think wonderfully so. Arena, and I'm going to get back to you, Erin, but Arena, I want to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that we should encourage the use of anti-abortion, continue to use pro-life as well. What I don't like is the word pro-choice to define and identify the other side. They're not pro-choice. Their only choice that they push is abortion. That's not a choice. And how many of you have seen the live-action video, the newest one, with the prenatal care? Raise your hands. Okay, so here you have these women calling in, asking for if Planned Parenthood offers prenatal care, and one after another, out of 97, only 5 said that they offer prenatal care, that they only do ultrasounds for abortions, and that they only do abortions, and that people should Google to find places to do prenatal care. So if they're pro-choice is not a term to define the other side, and we need to stop calling it that. I like to use pro-abortion. I don't know if there are any other words, if we're using anti-abortion for us, pro-abortion. Maybe
definitely in the media. It's different when you're having a dialogue on campus, though, sometimes. Just clarifying this, because Josh Braun might start yelling.
So I call people abortion activists or abortion advocates. I mean, it's simple. It's not. I'm not being too harsh. I'm just saying this is what they advocate for.
So I think that we need to really define our terms and use them, and I think that that's really going to change the pattern. But right now, pro-life has kind of lost its meaning because people from the other side could just say the same thing. And so we really need to figure out a way to communicate what we believe and what we're against.
So, when I was growing up, we used to call people Indians who didn't come from India, right? Now, what do we call them?
Native Americans.
Well, there's a variety of things. Native Americans or what?
First Nation.
If you're in Canada,
First Nation. And there's another one. Indigenous people. Think about how many more syllables that has than Indian, right? That's a lot more syllables. But we have trained ourselves we've trained the culture. The message has changed so that people feel uncomfortable if they say something that's a little off. That's your job. You need to train the culture to feel uncomfortable if they're saying things that are off in the life world. So one of the things that I say is, I'm for the human rights of the prenatal child, right? That's a lot longer than pro-life, but we are a human rights group, movement, and that's who we're fighting for, is the prenatal child. And I think Kristen is ahead of the times on looking at the anti-abortion language. You might be able to say to somebody, yeah, just like I'm opposed to slavery, I'm also opposed to abortion. I'm opposed to anything that doesn't allow someone to fully realize their human potential or takes away their human rights.
That's very interesting because just to add to what you guys say, I'm a big advocate for school choice. The school choice movement is something very near and dear to my heart. And one of the things that we use in the school choice movement, one of the terms we use is pro-choice, because it says something to people. It means the abortion debate. But immediately for people, a lot of people who are aligned against school choice are also aligned against pro-life. So it immediately opens their ears. Oh, you're pro-choice, I'm pro-choice too. You know? So if you want anyone to have a choice in abortion, then why wouldn't you allow students to have a choice in the school that they can attend? So language does matter. There might be some of you sitting here right now that might be like, this is pointless, but the way you talk about something, it does. I think Aaron brought up a really great point about the terms we use nowadays that we wouldn't have used 10, 20 years ago. So language is meaningful. I did want to ask, I'm sorry, let me see. I did want to ask about the issue, and then we're going to move on to the practicalities of how you message, what steps can you take right now where you are in high school or college to start a messaging campaign that will work for your student body. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but before we move on, I do want to talk about the issue of abortion. It's dark. And I related that story about my daughter and how I found it so difficult to talk to her about it. I talked to my son about it, but he was a little older and so could understand more. How do you how do you form a message around an issue that is so dark? We're ultimately talking about death. And that's not really an attractive subject to a lot of people. Irene, I'll start with you. How do you message around an issue that does portray so much hurt and darkness?
I think we first have to start by talking about what's really happening. I love Lila's videos on the abortion procedures. That shows scientifically, medically what happens, and it's hard to watch, but people need to know the truth, and that we're not talking about a clump of cells, etc. But more so than that, I think that we need to also look at the fact that we're not blaming anyone. We want to help everyone out of abortion. This includes the women, it includes the abortion workers, it includes everybody. And so everyone's been hurt in some way or another. If you have siblings missing, or your friend had an abortion, or you had an abortion, people have been hurt. And so I think that showing them that there's redemption and that they could turn it to good, so that that using that experience, that negative experience of abortion, you can help to save other lives. I think that's important, first and foremost. And there's always a silver lining. So for example, with medication abortion, it's the newest thing, this is what people are doing, but we know that it can be reversed. And so we can focus on the facts of, this is what a medication abortion does, this is how it kills a child, but then turning it back to, but you know what? Women have been able to save their babies if they change their mind within the first 24 to 48 hours. And so we have to find, where can we bring the redemption? Where can we bring life back into an area that is so dark? And it really looks, again, to life. Because if we focus too much on death, obviously we have to tell the facts, tell the straight facts about what abortion does. But then let's help people out of it, because we don't want people to feel guilt-tripped, or obviously they need to do healing if they've been touched by abortion in any way.
I think, you look at Jason talked earlier, I missed it, but I'm pretty sure he talked about, because he's in the movies, he always talks about the movie stuff. He talks about like how you create a really great movie story. And one of the things is, our conference theme is heroic. And I think that's one of the great ways to be that more redemptive, have that redemptive voice, is to talk about those who've overcome this crisis in their life, who were facing unplanned pregnancy, women who were raped, who courageously chose to give birth to a child and either parent or place with an adoptive family. I think those are really important stories that we can highlight that show the heroic effort. Who show these are the heroes, and it's a way to talk about the issue, and really talk about the issue on campuses too, especially when we're talking about adoption. You have the opportunity to highlight all of these heroes, these heroic birth moms on your campus, because especially when we talk about adoption, it's often like when we counsel in the pregnancy center world, if we say, hey, if the pregnancy test is positive, what are you thinking of doing? Are you thinking of abortion, parenting, or adoption? And I always would hear, I'm either gonna have an abortion or I'm gonna keep it. And I'd say, well, have you ever considered adoption? No, I never do that to my child. Head to desk. But unfortunately, that's our problem, is adoption has a more negative view than abortion. And so we can overcome that by simply highlighting the stories and the testimonies of these brave women who've chosen life despite all odds.
Erin?
Yeah, so we've got the best part of the abortion story to message, right? We've got life. We've got just a really joy-filled, bright spot in a really dark time in history in this area of culture. There's 4 main messages that I like to use. So write these down. The first one is the pro-life position is the compassionate position. We come alongside the women who are facing an untimely pregnancy, and we support them and walk with them through really difficult decisions. The second one is the pro-life position is the just position. We are the human justice side of this issue, and we will go down in history like those who ended slavery as the ones who spoke out for the prenatal child. The third message is that the pro-life position is the scientific position. Something I say a lot is nobody uses the old argument that it's not a life anymore, because they're just not medically relevant if they do. So we have all the science with us. All the children have all of their DNA in the womb. They have personalities, they have genders, they have names in lots of cases. So we are the scientific position. And this last one, as far as messaging goes, this is really important, and this is something you all need to really work to do. Throughout history, this life and death issue has been sometimes, when it's life and death, everybody feels really strongly about what they're doing and the way they're doing it. It's really important that we are the unified position. And here's why. People change their minds about public issues when they feel like everybody else is going a certain direction. So we need to all be going the same direction. And one thing that you can do to make that happen and make that clear is what I call shout outs. So whenever I'm on social media or I'm up on the stage or any time that I have any kind of audience, you're talking with your friends, make sure that you are not only publicizing your group and what you're doing, but the group on another campus or a different kind of pro-life group and what they're doing. Make sure that people know we are all in this together, and they're going to want to get on the train with us.
Yes, thank you, Erin. And I'll just add to that, as an op-ed journalist, and we said this last week in our panel, that we do monitor the hashtags on Twitter and Instagram. When you use them, that makes a difference. We're always looking for stories, and there's a lot of competition out there for stories and internet real estate right now. And if something is trending, like the best thing you can do for this conference today is hashtag everything and tweet it out.
Hashtag SFLA 2017.
SFLA 2017. Yes.
That's the one to use.
When things that trend catch our eye, but also we're always looking for stories that no one else is getting. So those things, I promise you, it makes a difference. Journalists are looking at what you're doing, even if you think, well, I'm just in high school, I'm just a sophomore in high school. No. If we see you on a hashtag and you have an interesting tweet, I might put that in an article. If it's funny enough, I might put it in an article, and you might get 100,000, 500,000, 1 million views on your Twitter page, and then you've got 1,000 new followers right away. So I promise you that it does make a difference when you marshal your social media power. We're going to move on to practicalities. I'm going to start with you, Erin. Let's say there's some students sitting out here and they've either got a club started on their campus or they want to start a club, but they're not sure which tools to use to get out the word that they're having this meeting of this pro-life club or anti-abortion club or whichever term they choose to use. What tools do you use as an advocate to get your message out there? I mean, is it social media? Do you make videos? Do you do plays? Or do you have conferences? What is it? What are some practical steps that these young people can take to start getting the message out?
Okay, here's just one thought. Find famous people who share your position. There's lots of people out there, whether they are in entertainment media or on social media, they're social media personalities. You guys know that Jack Nicholson was raised believing that his mother was his sister and his parents were his grandparents.
Do you guys know who Jack Nicholson is?
The well-known actor.
Some of them are
Martin
actually
Sheen, also a well-known actor. His wife was conceived and
Martin
raped.
Sheen is?
Lots of well-known people in Hollywood, but there's probably people that you can access better than them. I have a friend who's done a lot of viral videos, and he's very pro-life, and so I posted, you guys can go on my Facebook page and see this if you want, and I'm at Erin Brownback. I posted a video about the Women's March and how when the Progressive Party advocates for human rights, and they advocate for sexual liberty, and those things come together in the issue of abortion, they choose sexual liberty over human rights every time. Well, that video now has like 110,000 views because this friend of mine, who's very pro-life, pushed it out. So start lobbying people who share your position, who have a bigger audience than you, and get that message out. I know that's not what you're going to do to start a campus group, but I haven't been on college campus for a long time. So
sure, it's a good strategy though. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, you can do this on campus too. I mean, this is why, some of our strategies when you're recruiting is, put out some of your best looking members on the recruitment table.
definitely.
Put out the single ladies and the single guys. You're going to get out there and meet more people. But you can do that on a campus, though, because you know who the most popular people on your campus are. I think there was a Christian evangelical group that did this, where they actually targeted the most popular fraternities and sororities on the campus. They targeted, like, the cool athletes, the star athletes, and they worked really hard to get those people to be the leaders of their Christian club on campus, because they knew if they did that, more people would follow because they were the most well-liked people on the campus. All the people kind of gravitate to where they are. I mean, our motto is belong, believe, behave. So if you're struggling to get, members to your group, the most simple way to do that is through word of mouth, and it's through your own members, and have your own members bring people into your group. But there's also other things you can do. But you can take Erin's advice and apply it on a micro level.
I think one way to do it is you can ease them into it by the project that Kristen has done with Pregnant on Campus, because no matter where you stand on the abortion issue, I think you can get a lot more people who want to help women, want to make campus more child-friendly, more mother-friendly, and so I think that's a good place. And there are already things in place like 40 Days for Life. You can get a group of people to sign up to go for 40 Days for Life, et cetera, et cetera. So even just those types of projects, and it's not so daunting, just when you have a project at a time, and that'll get people involved and start talking about the issue.
Okay, I'm going to add to this too, as well as somebody who is in media, but I want to tell you guys, I love what Kristen said about invite the best looking people. I know that that's so uncomfortable to say.
I never hide the truth.
And that's why we love you. But it is a reality. Think about the TV shows you watch. Think about the movies you go to. I mean, I'm a middle-aged, boring housewife. When I go to the movies, I don't want to see other dumpy, middle-aged, boring housewives on screen. I want to see a girl who is freaking hot, who is like handling her business. She's my fantasy, It's what gets me to the movie. I don't want to pay to see someone like me. I see me every morning when I get up in the mirror, for free. It ain't worth the price of admission. But I do.
This is so going to be on the evaluation forms.
Along that lines, when I go to marches and rallies and things like that, I do just that. I mean, I actually bring signs, ask people to hold those signs, and take pictures of them. And I just flood social media, and I have reporters contact me. I've had things get 10,000, retweets. But I recognize that I control our message. I am one of the people who controls it, just like you are one of the people who controls our message. And so I make sure our message looks exactly like I want it to look, so that people believe. Everyone young, everyone cool, everyone is going this direction, and I want to be on board with that.
Because that's how social movements win.
Yeah.
Because you want everyone on your campus to be like, holy cow, I need to be part of that pro-life club because they're winning.
I gotta be a part of it.
Because we are a nation of winners, darn it, and we want to be on the winning team. And I think that's very, very important, and that's why the pictures and the narrative we're building. We were doing an event the other day at the Supreme Court, and this guy, God bless him, was following me around. And he had some interesting outfit on. He was an older white gentleman, and I was real nice. I wasn't mean, but he kept trying to get in between me and the camera and stand right next to me and be like my buddy.
Don't do that.
And I was like, I kept trying to scoot. He'd come over here, I'd scoot over here, and darn it, he got in some of them. And I was like, this is just weird. But I was trying to control the narrative that they were going to do.
And I do, Kristen, I actually, after this, I want to get to this issue of the narrative. Arena, you had something to add, though.
So I think we need to break that stereotype of what a pro-lifer looks like, and even on our campus. And I think people put in that category. And when they see people at the March for Life, we're young, we're hip, we're beautiful, and we're standing up for human rights. And that's really cool. And we need to go on campus and make that known. And yesterday when I was marching, I was trying to find all the different kinds of pro-lifers out there. So I saw pro-bikers for life, and I saw, the atheist groups for life. And we need to show them that the pro-life movement is very, very diverse. It's not just, you're the Christian homeschooling whomever on your campus, but no.
Which we love Christian homeschoolers.
Yes, I'm all for Christian homeschoolers.
I was one for a while. We love you guys.
But we're diverse. We're diverse, and we need to show that it's cool to be for the unborn.
And this is an issue, of course, you ladies already know this, that covers, all women of all races have babies. This isn't just a white person issue or a black person issue, and I do encourage you guys to use that social justice angle as well. But I do want to talk a little bit, since we're talking about practical tools for getting your message across, what a narrative means. The narrative means just telling a story, the way the story is told. As a member of the media, I can tell you with 100% accuracy that everybody, even the people you think are unbiased, everybody is biased. Everything you read, everything. If it's in the New York Times, if it's on a blog like mine that leans conservative, Red State, or if it's other places, every reporter has personal biases, and they are setting up a story when they report the facts to you. Some facts get reported even in the course of their narrative. Some just get erased altogether. There was an incredible piece in The Atlantic this week about against pro-lifers, and it was so riddled with inaccuracy they had to make 5 retractions. Never seen anything like that in my career as a blogger. But that is a reporter adding a narrative to a factual story. So the narrative matters. The story you tell matters. Kristen, can I start with you about how do these young people tell this story? What are some angles they take from the story? And maybe they use video, or maybe they use, in-person?
Sure. I think, one, just take pictures of your face doing something pro-life. That's helpful, because you're the narrative that we're trying to get out, that this generation is pro-life, that pro-life is the cool, hip thing, because it really is. The majority of us actually feel this way, and we don't have to lie. But yeah, that's what's important, like on your campus, for example, when you're trying to get this narrative out. There's a lot of people on your campus, when they hear the word pro-life, they have a negative reaction to it, because this is what they've been fed by these reporters who have their own narrative that they want to get out about the pro-life movement. So when you guys are doing events on campus, take lots of pictures. Take good pictures, not like random pictures. Like right now will be a boring picture of people sitting around. But pictures of people doing something, people smiling. When you're doing events to help out, you all do so much on your campuses, especially to help out pregnant parenting students. But let me just be quite frank with you. You suck at telling your story. You come up to me at events like this, and you're like, oh yeah, we had a baby saved like 6 months ago. Broadcast that everywhere. Put it on your Facebook page. Make sure all your members share it. Hey, we just talked to this mother today. She was so scared. We gave her support. She said she's going to choose life. Don't only just put it on your Students for Life Facebook page. Make sure all your members share it. Text all your members. Share this now. Tweet this now. Instagram this now. Be a little bossy. Make them do it. I have 30-some staffers at SFLA. When we want something to go viral in the pro-life movement, it's kind of getting easier because I got 30 people who will instantly retweet or reshare whatever I want them to do, usually. So you can make your group do that, and they all have their own, peer group from your school. And so we have to be better about telling our story about the women you serve on your campus, making sure that when you guys do a baby shower, write something up for the campus newspaper. Make sure that when pro-lifers or just, anybody who's anti-abortion gets put down in your campus newspaper, that you write back and you say, no, actually, this is who we are. And did you know those lactation rooms on campus are courtesy of us? Thank you very much. I mean, you can be nicer about than that, but you could be a little snarky.
Or be snarky.
Yeah, snarky is good sometimes. I mean, that's the thing is, try different things.
We have snark fans over here.
Yeah, we have snark fans. You watch our pro-life Gen News? We're a little snarky. Miss Missy is the queen of snark in our office. But you can do different things. You can be funny and make funny quips. You don't always have to do a video like babies are dying, why aren't you helping us?
Kristen, I want to ask, thank you very much. I love that idea. And I think don't be afraid to share your stuff. This is one thing as a journalist I hate. Journalists never do this. We write stuff and then we never share our own stuff because we feel like, it's not. You want to be humble? You can't be humble. You can't be humble in the face of life and death. Share your stuff. Your first point of contact are the people you know.
If you didn't share it or tweet it or Facebook it, it didn't happen. So I don't care how many great things your group does. If I don't know about it, it didn't exist.
It's true. Arena, how does FRC use, what are some methods that FRC uses to get the narrative, to set the narrative?
I think one of the most powerful tools we have right now is Facebook Live. It's the biggest thing ever. I will tell you, we have events when we stream them on our website, and we also put them on Facebook Live, and we get hundreds of thousands of views just because they're on Facebook Live. And it won't be around, I don't think it'll be around for free for much longer. I think we need to maximize our time with it because it's free advertising for our message. And so when you're at the march, did you Facebook Live? Did you take video and post it? Because that's what we're creating the narrative, and we're out there and people are watching. Because do you know that when you use Facebook Live, it shows up in every person's feed on your friend list. And so everyone knows that you're live. And it's amazing reach. And so FRC has started using it and has blown out of proportion in the best way possible. We're getting our message out there. We recently had Melissa Oden, who's an abortion survivor, tell her story. And within a few days, it was already at 108,000 views. And so people want to hear stories. They want to hear your story. And so get out there, share your story on campus, and put it on Facebook Live.
For Facebook Live, just one quick thing. Sometimes you can film yourself doing something really cool, like if you're having a polling table, Facebook Live that. But sometimes if somebody comes up to you, tells a story, you don't feel comfortable, like, hey, thanks for sharing your story. Let me put this in your face and say this on camera. But what you can do is you can go on Facebook Live and say, hey, I just had this great conversation. Here's what was said. Here's what I said. And here was the result. And you're not outing the person. And it's kind of like a video blog. Those go just as viral as you actually doing something and showing it.
Yeah, you may notice that just on that Facebook is actually advertising, and they don't do this a lot. They're actually advertising their live feature. It's because they're trying to move everything live. So just be aware of that. Watch for that over the next, year or so. As far as the narrative goes, every good story has 3 types of characters: a victim, a villain, and a hero. And your stories need to have that too. So really think about how to position those 3 characters in the stories that you tell, whether it's a piece that you write for your school, whether it's a social media thing that you do, whether you're doing an interview, whether you're up here like this. So when you talk about the victims, we've been really good in the pro-life movement about talking about babies not reaching their full human potential. But also think about the women who are impacted, the way society is impacted. The #1 cause of death of a pregnant woman, does anyone know what it is? It's murder. and it's typically at the hands of the father of the child who wants her to have an abortion. That is a victim story. That woman doesn't have to be a victim, and you can tell the story in a way where she doesn't end up being the victim. But anyone, like Planned Parenthood, for instance, who is trying to pressure her for their own purposes, for their own financial gain, into having an abortion, anyone can be a villain to that victim. Think about all good social movements right now. They have pretty clearly defined villains, like who's the villain in the Occupy Wall Street movement? It's the top 1%, right? You guys have all heard that. Nobody here has not heard about the top 1%, right? The people who make the most money, they are the villains. Who's the villain in the feminist movement?
Men.
Old white men, right? Old white men are the bad guys. Men, period. Even the young ones who aren't white, you're villains too. So we have to be really clear. We've been clear about that with Planned Parenthood, but we've got to really clarify anyone that is pressuring women into abortions are villains. And then as far as heroes go, you guys are heroes. You get this opportunity to say, hey, we did that baby shower. We did that, what is it? Display, whatever. And also these women get to be heroes. They get to make a life plan for their baby.
Well, I want to ask you guys to piggyback on this, and I want to hear from each of you guys about this, because do you feel that is a little bit of a manipulation?
Well, that's what
Some people might not
messaging
feel
is.
comfortable manipulating.
Listen, manipulation has gotten a bad rap, but you manipulate things all the time. Think about it. Be real.
Things you hear at the Students for Life conference.
But it's true. I mean, my dad and I had this conversation when I was young. He was like, you manipulate weights to build muscles, right? The idea of you are purposefully, intentionally working to impact public perception, that's a manipulation at its core, and everyone does it. You know, the green movement. Do you think that's not a manipulation? I have this thing in my hotel saying, leave your towel
That's just them
hanging
being
up.
chick.
It's true. And that is a great way of showing that money motivates. So you have got to find ways to tie money to your message to get people to carry your message for you.
Arena?
So the way that abortion was sold was through manipulation. So I'm reading this book where they showed how Cosmo and other women's magazines, they didn't have abortion stories because women didn't have abortions. It wasn't cool. So they would actually create the stories, like actually make them up. And that's how they sold abortion. And for example, there's another book by Terry Beatley on how Bernard Nathanson, who was one of the biggest abortionists, and he helped to found NARAL, he had a marketing plan on how to sell abortion. And so if the other side uses their plans to sell us a lie, we need to push and market the truth out in the best way we can. And so I think that because we have the truth on our side, it's easier. All we have to do is just get it out there and not be afraid to speak it. And this is where you come in. If you sit and you want to be a fly on the wall and you don't want to, it's too much for you to get involved. This is where you do get a chance to be heroic. We need you. Do you want your children and your grandchildren to say, oh wow, my mom or my grandma or my grandfather was involved in saving America from abortion? I mean, that's a cool hero story. Think about people who fought slavery, and are you being active right now in the biggest human rights injustice of our time? And that's what we have to face.
Do you have anything to add to that, Kristen? We're gonna wrap up. Did you want to tack on anything to that idea? No?
No, I mean, the abortion industry manipulates women every single day. And they have a business cycle to trap her into choosing abortion. They manipulate our culture. We're just telling the truth. Bam.
So So I'm a Christian, and for those of you who read the Bible, you may be familiar with the verse, be as wise as serpents and innocent as doves. And that's what we're talking about. Tell the truth, but do it strategically so that we can get our job done.
All right, I'm gonna ask the ladies just to leave our audience with a final thought on messaging, one parting thought that you You want them to know about messaging the story, telling the narration. I'll wrap up by saying that, again, just going back to my roots in school choice advocacy, the best thing that ever happened to the school choice movement was this movie called Waiting for Superman, which is an incredible story about inner city kids struggling to get out of a public school system that they're trapped in. They have no choice. That was my own story of how I became an advocate. I was one of those parents. And created so much emotion around this very logical issue that it drove the activism. So things like that, the story, the narrative is important. We'll start with Arena, and we'll go down the line. We'll give Kristen the final word. Arena, final thoughts for our wonderful audience out here.
I would say be authentic, because people want to hear from you. And as much as we want to change everything and about abortion and to ban it, at the end of the day, you have the opportunity to change one person's life. And so people want to interact, and the most of the change you can do is really one-on-one when they know that you care, first and foremost. And that changes their perception on what pro-lifers are and what they are about just by how you interact with them. And I would say be pro-life in every aspect of your life. So if you're for saving babies, but you're mean at the supermarket to the little old lady in front of you, that's not really showing a full whole life ethic. And so I think that we can really be pro-life by the way we live every single day.
Yeah, that's really good. I think when you're talking with people who disagree with you, the very best thing you can do is listen. That's what people want. And here's what you say to them. I hear you. That must be really hard. It doesn't matter what they've said. You say, I hear you. That must be really hard. Because obviously they're very passionate about their position. And if that doesn't work, then you just say, you're so pretty. That always works.
You've used that on me a couple of times. I've realized that.
I've used that with you.
You've used that with me. I'm like, crap, that's your formula.
But you are pretty, Kristen. If you're talking with people who are in the middle, what you say to them is, here's where we agree, okay? Always find the places where you agree and position it that way. Here's where we agree. If you're talking with people who are already on your side, the number one thing you need to tell them is, we are winning. Because that's what makes people feel like there's momentum and we can keep going and we're all going in this together in the same direction.
You took mine.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm always the we are winning
I'm sorry,
line.
but you're so pretty.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of final thoughts on it. I think we just need to not be afraid to talk about this issue. I think a lot of us kind of get pushed into the corner on this, because not everyone is as loudmouth as I am. Not everyone is as comfortable with a bullhorn as I am. But you all need to understand you have a very, very powerful voice. If every single person who was at the March for Life yesterday actually lived their lives every day thinking, what can I do today to abolish abortion? There's no way abortion would not end within our lifetime. Because we have the momentum, we have the people, we have it. But what happens is we kind of get caught up in our lives, we get busy, we get excited, we come to the March for Life, we might come to our conference. Some of our friends come to the March for Life and don't come to the conference because they want to go sightseeing.
Boo!
Boo!
But shame those people.
But we can't stop. And that's the thing, is the March for Life, the conference, our conference is only the beginning of your year. This is your launching point. If every single person at the March for Life lived their day saying, oh, I woke up, I think abortion's gonna end tomorrow. Oh my goodness, I have to do everything we can to make sure no woman ever feels like she needs to choose abortion ever again. Do you think things would change in our country? Absolutely. So I think we need to think about that. Also, I just wanna say, we have so many heroes in our pro-life movement. I know a lot of times we talk about changing the narrative and we want to show younger faces, but I think we need to be careful, and I get accused of this sometimes too, of we need to show our respect for the generations of our movement who struggled for so long when this wasn't a popular issue. And I think we need to be very careful about sometimes how we word things, because I'm a pretty blunt person. Don't clap what I said, because I'm one who gets accused all the time of this, of like, Kristen, you're insulting me again. And I'm like, no, I'm not. So I think we need to be really careful about when we're talking about we are the pro-life generation, this isn't your grandfather's pro-life movement. That's totally true, but we need to be like, but we love you, the grandfathers of the pro-life movement, because we are where we are because of what you did and what you sacrificed.
You're building on it.
We're building off of all of their sacrifice.
Before we go, I want to tell everybody, I am a journalist for redstate.com. It's one of the biggest conservative blogs in the country. I also freelance everywhere. I mean, my work's been included in Forbes magazine and lots of different places. Follow me on Twitter at Real Kira Davis, Kira, Real Kira Davis. Oh. If your organization makes videos and you think you have a funny video or cute video, tag me on it. You might just get a front page feature at Red State, which is good for hundreds of thousands of hits. So, don't be afraid. You guys want to plug your organizations? Well, plug your social media
You're here,
real quick?
just keep staying here. I just have to make a quick announcement. So go ahead. You guys want to give your Twitter handles?
Yeah. At Arina Grossu, ARINAGROSSU.
You can go to my website, erinbrownback.com, and add your email address, and I'll send out messaging that I work on the pro-family movement. You can find me on Twitter at eBrownback or Facebook at Erin Brownback. Has everyone done that right now? Do you have your phones out? Did you pull this out and do that right now? Good
She's
job.
awesome. She'll give you your talking points. You won't have to think about it. She gives you marching orders. And you can follow me at Kristen Hawkins. And like I said earlier, I'm getting a lot of hate today. I'm not real good at Twitter, so you want to have.
So tell Kristen she's pretty.
No, just get on my Twitter and all the people, all the trolls. Have some fun today. We have a quick announcement. We have a 19-minute break before the evening general session. Abby Johnson, I believe, will be here in all her twin glory. She's pregnant with twins, so you have a 19-minute break. Go visit some vendors and buy some cool pro-life swag. See you later.
All right, go message this movement, folks.